my birdies, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Robin, and this is Robin's Reading Nest. Please like and share this video, hit the subscribe button, and click the notification bell so that you may know when I upload or go live here on my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Storygraph at Robin's Reading Nest. If you missed my last video on the series that I'm in the middle of, please click here to see it. Today's video is the top books that I read in 2024. These books gave me all the feels, made me clutch my pearls, and in some cases, throw the book across the room. Though in no particular order, the first book is All of the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. It follows Titus Crown, the first Black sheriff in Sharon County, Virginia, as he investigates a series of murders that expose a deep-seated serial killer within the seemingly peaceful community. All the while, Crown must simultaneously navigate racial tensions, a far-right group celebrating Confederate history, and a painful secret from his own past. Set in a small southern town, the story explores themes of identity, justice, and the lasting impact of racism in the American South. When the killer was revealed, I was in shock for a moment. The character that stood out to me in this book was Titus Crown, and the quote that stood out is, "The belief in a supernatural source of evil is not necessary. Men alone are quite capable of every wickedness." Joseph Conrad. Next is The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. It is a historical novel set in 1950s Jim Crow Florida that follows a young Black boy named Robert Robbie Stevens Jr. After a minor altercation with a white teenager, Robbie is sent to the Gracetown School for Boys, a brutal reformatory. While there, Robbie must confront the horrors of racism, violence, and the ghost of past students. On the outside, his sister Gloria is fighting against the system to get him back. Though this book is fiction, the character of Robbie is based on Tananarive's great uncle, who was actually at the Dozier School for Boys Reformatory. The character that stood out for me in this book was Robbie's sister, Gloria Stevens. And the quote that stood out was, "'Cause see, colored folks fighting for what's theirs is like a virus to white folks, and they kill a virus so it don't spread." Next is The Yellow Wife by Sadika Johnson. It tells the story of Phoebe Dolores Brown, a biracial woman born into slavery on a Virginia plantation who is promised freedom on her 18th birthday. Instead, she is forced into the brutal conditions of the Devil's Half-Acre slave jail in Richmond, where she must use her wit and resilience to survive against a cruel jailer. Phoebe's light skin gives her protections that benefit her children and causes the other slaves to hate her. Sadika based this book on Mary Lumpkin, who was also an enslaved woman who helped turn an infamous slave jail into an HBCU. The character that stood out for me was Phoebe Dolores Brown, and the quote that stood out is, "I curse you and all of your unborn children in the name of my grandmother, Queen Vinnie Brown. May all your worst fears come to pass, and all the evil you do come back on you tenfold. This plantation will be your living hell, Mark my words. And if you've read this book, you know that that curse came to be true. Next for my top books is One Summer in Savannah by Tara Shelton Harris. This tells the story of Sarah Lancaster, a Black woman who, after 8 years, returns to her hometown of Savannah, Georgia, to care for her ailing father. While there, she encounters Jacob Weiler, the identical twin brother of the man who assaulted her. The assault resulted in the birth of a child genius who Sarah is keeping away from the Weiler side of the family. This forces her to grapple with the complexities of forgiveness and the potential for healing in the face of unimaginable trauma. I had to make myself put this one down, just so that I could get some work done around my house. If you missed the review for this book, I'll put the link in the description box below. The character that stood out to me was Sarah's daughter, Alana Lancaster. And the quote that stood out, "Forgiveness, I've learned, is like a door. You can open yourself up to it or close yourself off from it at any time. We can't rewrite history or change the outcome. Life is a series of choices, and we live in and with those choices we make." Next on my list is Take My Hand by Dolan Perkins Valdez. This powerful novel explores the disturbing history of the forced sterilization of Black women in the United States. Sybil Townsend, a Black nurse working in rural Alabama during the 1970s, becomes entangled in a case involving young Black girls who are involuntarily sterilized. It forces Sybil to confront the painful realities of her own past and the systemic injustice within the medical system. This story was based on the true story of Minnie Lee and Mary Alice Ralph, sisters who at 12 and 15 were sterilized without their or even their parents' consent in Montgomery, Alabama. Their social worker, Jessie Bly, reported it to a local attorney, and eventually the case was taken over by the Southern Poverty Law Center and lead lawyer Joseph Levin Jr. The case was then sent to the federal court in D.C. The character that stood out to me was Erica Williams. And the quote, "Although I refuse to believe there was a such thing as an unwanted child, there was a such thing as an unwanted pregnancy." Next is a book that I have fell in love with and I will probably revisit, and that is The Sky Full of Elephants by Sibo Campbell. It is a speculative fiction novel that explores a post-racial America where all white people have vanished, leaving a world where a Black father, Charlie, must reconnect with his estranged biracial daughter, Sydney. As they journey across the country, primarily to Alabama, a newly formed kingdom, to confront their identities and grapple with the implications of this radical societal shift. I love this book so much that I will be passing out copies to everyone in my family. And also, I'm not sure if you know this or not, but Three Sisters, One Book Club will be interviewing SIBO on February 6th. So I will put a link to their YouTube channel in the description box below so that you may be able to see it. The character that stood out to me was Charlie Brunton, and the quote, "Neither grief or calamity had ever stopped the joy of Black people. We smiled through the worst the world had to offer. Next is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan, which tells the story of a divorced couple, Yasmin and Josiah Wade, who are navigating co-parenting and running a business together. After experiencing a devastating personal tragedy that shattered their marriage, they try to maintain a new normal. A stolen kiss reignites old feelings, forcing them to confront whether they can truly let go of their past love and potentially find a second chance together. If you missed my review on Before I Let Go, I will link it in the description box below. The review has trigger warnings and timestamps for those who would be sensitive to some of the topics discussed. The character that stood out to me was Yasmin. She and I shared similar experiences. And the quote that stood out was, "F them ribs." Now, I know you're saying, out of 400 pages, how in the world could those 3 words be a memorable quote? But if you've read the book, then you know why. This Could Be Us, though it can be read as a standalone novel, is the follow-up to Before I Let Go. It tells the story of Soledad Barnes, a seemingly perfect, organized woman who finds her life shattered when her husband betrays her, leaving her to rebuild her life as a single mother to 3 daughters, all while navigating the unexpected attraction to a man she shouldn't want. He is also dealing with his own complicated family dynamic. And the character that stood out to me was Soledad Barnes. And the quote, "A woman who wants more and realizes she deserves it is a dangerous thing." Next is Miss Pearlie's Girls by Rashonda Tate Billingsley. Miss Pearlie Bell raised 4 different daughters alone in rural Arkansas, but their relationships have fractured over time, with each sister going their separate ways. Now facing a terminal illness, Pearlie summons her daughters back home, hoping to help them reconcile and forgive each other. However, the sisters must first confront old secrets and lies. Maxine, the oldest, is hiding a secret that could ruin her reputation. Leslie, the youngest, must question everything she knows after a shocking revelation. Twins, Stella and Star, are at odds, and a long-buried deception threatens their fragile connection. Each sister must confront their personal illusions and face each other in hopes of rebuilding trust. But can they repair the damage in time to unite when it matters most? The character that stood out to me was Leslie Bell, and the quote that stood out, "Family business stays in the family," what her mother had always said right after she told them, "When all is said and done, family is all you got." Black Cake by Charmaine Patterson is a story that primarily revolves around estranged siblings Benny and Byron, who are brought together after the death of their mother Eleanor. The two are shocked to learn that their mother has left them an inheritance, a voice recording that will reveal hidden truths about her life. As Benny and Byron begin to unravel the story, they must come to terms with the new revelations about their mother and how they each fit into the larger picture of their family history. If you missed my review for Black Cake, I will link it in the description box below. The character that stood out to me was Eleanor Bennett, and the quote, "You can look at a person and truly have no idea what they are holding inside." And last but not least is Glory Be by Danielle Arsenault. This is a cozy mystery that follows local bookie turned detective Glory, a divorcee who supplements her income by taking bets, whether it's horses or the local high school football game. She unexpectedly finds herself becoming a detective when she decides to solve the murder of her best friend and nun, Sister Amity. If you missed my review on Glory B, I will link it in the description box below. The character that stood out to me was Gloria Broussard, and the quote, "Every time a crime is buried, justice also has to wait." So, what were your top reads from 2024? Are any of the books that I mentioned included? If not, will you add them on your TBR? If so, drop down in the comments and let me know. That ends today's review. I'm so glad that y'all decided to spend this time with me. And until we meet again, thank you for visiting Robin's Reading Nest, where birds of a feather read together.